Hey, everybody, it's Josh Tagg with Indie Mortgage and Mortgages for Less. Normally, I'd be joined by Edmonton Realtor Jay Lewis at eXp Realty for these monthly updates, but our schedules didn't align, so I guess you're stuck with me today. Now, today we're going to be looking at the May 2026 Edmonton real estate statistics, and honestly, the month tells a very interesting story this time, because depending on what type of property you're looking at or wanting to know about, you could argue Edmonton is actually two different markets right now. The detached homes, single family homes, still moving higher. Condos, they're kind of moving lower. Inventory is rapidly climbing, and buyers are finally getting more options than they've had in quite some time. So let's dive in. The sales, they're continuing to climb. In May, there were 2,557 sales across the Greater Edmonton Area, which is up a bit from the 2,482 in April and down all the way at 1,151 back in January. So despite all the economic uncertainty that we've been seeing this year, people are still buying homes, perhaps a little bit slower pace than a year ago. But this follows the normal seasonal patterns where activity picks up through the spring market, usually peaks sometime around May or June. The important takeaway here is that buyers haven't disappeared. The demand remains healthy, but the inventory, it's growing faster. So let's take a look at those inventory numbers, because that is part of where things get interesting for sure. Inventory has jumped to 7,844 homes available for sale. And a month ago, it was at 6,900. In January, it was under 5,000. So let's think about that for a second. Since January, we've added almost 3,000 available properties since the beginning of the year. And that's a huge increase in choice for you as buyers. For the past couple of years, it often felt like there were very few options available. Buyers had to make decisions immediately, but that appears to be changing. Buyers have more selection. Buyers have more negotiating power and more opportunity to compare properties before having to jump and make that decision. Now, it doesn't mean that we're entering into a buyer's market, but it means we're entering into a much more balanced market than what we had before. The days on market, those are increasing. This reinforces that story if you take a look at the number of days. Detached homes are now taking about 33 days to sell. Semi-detached homes, those are half duplexes, about 38 days. Townhouses around 36. All of those are very similar, but condos, they're not selling that well. They're taking 49 days. Now, every single category is taking longer to sell than it was a year ago, which tells us that buyers are being more selective, especially with more inventory to choose from. So sellers need to be priced correctly. And properties that aren't positioned well, they're going to sit longer than they would have just 12 months ago. For buyers, it's good news. You may have a little bit more time to think before making one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. Detached homes, though, they continue to lead, so let's talk about them. It remains the strongest segment in the Edmonton market. The median detached home price, it went all the way to $548,000 in May, and the average price is actually over $600,000. Now, this 548, that's up from 525 in April and up from the 515 at the beginning of the year. The Realtors Association reported that the average is at 605,000. So whether you're looking at the median or the average price, detached homes continue to move higher and higher. And in fact, they're up 4.4% month over month and 3.1% year over year. Now, what's remarkable is that prices are rising despite inventory increasing substantially. And that's a sign that demand for family homes remains really strong. So if you're waiting for detached home prices to suddenly collapse because there's more listings hitting the market, the numbers aren't showing that that's what's happening. Now, with semi-detached, the median price sits at $425,000, only barely above April at $420,000. It's only a 1.2% month over month increase. And since last year, it's 2.8%. So that's a category I do like for move-up buyers. There's not a lot to choose from just because there's not a lot of them compared to single-family homes, but it gives you a really good opportunity if that's what you're looking for. You get much of the functionality of a detached home, but staying at the more affordable price point. As the detached homes become more expensive, it won't be surprising to see more demand in this segment. And so that might start to go up next. Now, townhouses, they're also having a solid year. The median townhouse price hit $315,000 in May, up from $309,000 in April. That's 1.9%. It's only up 1.6 year over year. It's not explosive growth, But steady growth is often healthier than explosive growth. So, first time home buyers, for you, townhouses continue to represent one of the best combinations of affordability, ownership, and long term wealth building. And for many people, a townhouse can be the stepping stone that eventually leads to owning a detached home. Now, for the outlier, that's condos. It's kind of moving in the opposite direction. It hasn't really changed much over the last 5 or 6 years. The median price fell back down to 190,000 from 195,000 in April and 200,000 earlier in the year. It's down 2.6% month over month and 4.4% over last year when it hit a bit of a high. The Realtor Association in Edmonton noted that condo inventories have increased and competition among sellers has intensified. So, what does that mean? If you are selling, pricing is critical. For buyers, it could mean opportunity. If you've been thinking about entering the market with a smaller down payment or purchasing an investment property, that may be where this segment is where you'll find the best value. Now, what does this mean going forward? Well, if I had to summarize the Edmonton market in one sentence, it would be this. It's becoming more balanced, but detached homes, they're still winning. We are seeing more inventory. We're seeing longer selling times. We're seeing buyers gain more choice, and we're not seeing broad declines in price across the market. In fact, most property categories are still appreciating. The only exception is the condo market. Now, from a mortgage perspective, the one thing I continue to see is that buyers are underestimating what they can actually afford. Many people are surprised to learn that with today's rates and lending rules, they might qualify for more than they think, especially with the 30-year amortizations that came into place recently. And of course, the rebates, if you are buying a new home, the rebates on the GST. Others discover that maybe they should start now so they can be ready 6 or 12 months down the road. Either way, having a plan is important. So if you're thinking about buying a home in Edmonton, upgrading to a larger property, or simply wanting to understand what you qualify for, I'm happy to help as a mortgage broker. I'll also include Jay's contact information in the in the video description. And leave a comment below and let me know what part of the Edmonton market you'd like for us to cover next month. And Jay will be back with me for this next update. Thanks for watching. Click like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications, and I will see you in the next video.